So here's my my son Josh's 2004 Rev 500 SS bottom end. I rebuilt it last year. This is a crankcase that I had picked up because his crankcase last year was destroyed right at the beginning of the season. With 15,000 kilometers on his crank, his rod let go and took out the whole case. So he went without a sled all last winter. He used my my Mach Z 800 long track trail sled for the winter. But this winter, or this fall, or last fall, I got this motor back running for him. This is a brand new crank, or rebuilt crank from CV Tech, which came in perfect. It came in 1 thou out on the mag side, I believe, and half a thou out on the PTO side. So I threw that back in there, and with this used case that I got from Marsh Bernard at PWR in Timmins, and gasket kit, and some Wozner forged pistons from Mars at PWR. But I guess when I got the top end honed or bored for the 20 thou pistons, the 5.5 thou piston to cylinder clearance was a little too tight for a forged piston in a cast iron bore, as this engine doesn't run Nicosil cylinders. So or my son ended up tweaking a piston. He ended up seizing it and smearing it. It was either the piston to cylinder clearance was a little too tight at 5.5 thou, or the thermostat stayed stuck shut and then popped open, and then cold seized the engine, even though he had been driving for well over an hour, and then did a wide open run and it seized up on him. Lubrication was good. There's lots of oil. You look at the crank here, and we're running Amsoil synthetic oil, Dominator oil, which is a very good oil, and he ended up seizing it. But when I told my son, I said, "Oh, you seized it," I said, "I bet you threw your crank out." So before taking my whole crankcase apart, I built this plate last night so that I can check my runout, my crank runout, before taking it apart. But I had an inkling that, just like when you blow a belt at wide open throttle or you seize an engine, there's a good chance, if your crank isn't welded, which most cranks aren't, you're going to throw out your crank by a thou or a couple of thou. Skidoo allows, I believe, 3 thou runout on the crank, and I checked it and we're at 4. And like I said, when I got this one from CV Tech, it was at 1 thou out on the mag side and half a thou out on the PTO side. Now I'm getting 4 thou, so I'm going to show you this. It depends on every time I check it, because sometimes I've seen it even up to 5 thou, but that's in the case all cranked down. So I'm definitely taking this whole crankcase apart and gonna re-straighten that crank. I have my own V-block set up. I'm gonna set that crank in there and straighten her all out, and we're gonna get some new cast pistons instead of the forged pistons, and I'm gonna make sure I have a little more piston to cylinder clearance so that he doesn't tweak her again next winter. I think I might either go without a thermostat or just buy a new thermostat for the machine, just in case that was the problem. But just to let some other people know that piston to cylinder clearance is a critical measurement for rebuilds. He did put 900 kilometers on it before it did seize, so that's why I'm thinking maybe the thermostat stuck and shut. It is a 2004, and as far as I know, it still had the original thermostat in it, so it might have failed and then opened up and let some cold coolant in there, because it was a 4-corner seizure on the piston. And now we're on a rebuild again.